This is Mobidictum, this is Peggy Ann Saltz, not just catching up with companies and cool publishers, but also cool people we need to hear and know more about in the industry. I think I have landed it, because if you don't know Gus Viegas, then you will know him now, and you should definitely keep in touch and keep up to him, because Gus Viegas, VP of Marketing at Cosmic Launch. I know your title, but for me, you're just going to be the man at Cosmic Launch. You are the voice, and you are also very vocal about, I think, the question on everyone's mind, how do I make a game that's going to crush it in 2025? So that's a big, broad question, but I know we're going to deep dive, so I'll start there. Make an awesome game in 2025. What does it need to contain or consider?
I would love to answer this question with the simple fact that if you look at the top 500 games out there, you'll see that only 2% of them are actually made from a new studio, new game, new IP, everything new. It's really, really hard to make it out there. The way I would put it is that the floor has risen. As the industry is maturing, you can't just be mediocre. You can't just be decent. You actually have to excel. You have to be the best. But what does that even mean, right? So, kind of to answer your question, I feel it's not just a matter of having a great product. It's not just a matter of delivering on that product. You have to think about distribution of that product, and you have to have not only innovations in that product that will help it sell, but also innovations in the way you distribute that game. And that's kind of the minimum just to start in this industry nowadays. And that's why at least we at Cosmic Lounge have been trying our best to figure out new ways of distributing and how to solve that issue, because we think that's the bare minimum just to be a startup, a new company in the space nowadays.
I mean, there's no argument there. You have to get it in front of audiences. You want to get it in front of new audiences, valuable audiences as well. But what does that mean, distribution? I mean, is that like the epic Google battle ongoing and we're like, yes, this is great, we have alternative stores and alternative places, or does it go deeper than that?
So of course I'm going to answer it from a point of view of a UA guy that's been doing UA for the last 10, 11 years, and I still remember the days where it's like everything is Meta Google, and if you don't distribute on either of those and you don't have the support of Google Play and then Apple, you're done for. I think the DMA and all of the implications are basically saying, hey, we're challenging the status quo of the big two in terms of the stores. And I think on the UA front, the big two don't exist anymore of just Meta, just Google, and you're fine. You have to diversify considerably more. And we are starting to see this, or have been starting to see this for the last few years, but especially now when you see, for instance, rewarded ad networks go through, and it's over 20% of people's share of wallet. And this is something that maybe would be unthinkable a few years back, right? And so you have rewarded networks on one side, AppLovin's meteoric rise to success on the other. You have the DMA on the stores. It's so many different changes. So I would really just say that one, to be in nowadays market, has to be sharp, has to be aware, has to be looking at the news, hearing the people, and understanding the movements, because there's more movements than ever on the distribution space, I would say.
But you guys up at Cosmic Lounge, you're not just trying, you're tweaking, you're working on stuff. You're looking at distribution in a totally different way. It's not necessarily, oh, we're maxed out on Google and Facebook, etc. It's like there is, I wouldn't call it incremental value, but there's like innovative opportunities in distribution. Unpack that a little bit. What's going on up there in the dark, cold, long days of tweaking and refining in Helsinki? What can we expect? What's going on? Lift the lid.
We there up in the cold, dark north. Don't have anything else to do except innovate. So no, it's a home. It's a home of some of the best engineers on the planet, and it shows. And I think that what we did is we took some engineering expertise that we had from some of our founders that have worked tirelessly on technologies on King, at Seriously, Rovio, and a bunch of other studios. And that technology we've been developing for years now. It's called Puzzle Engine. We think about it is to make games, there's better ways of doing it. And after years and years of making games, there are better ways of doing it, and there's always that inkling feeling in the back of your head of there has to be a better way, and the studio is based on trying to answer all of those questions as a new studio. And I think the biggest thing out of all of them so far, although there's many, is trying to see our code architecture enabling us to not just make a game, but make a game engine within Unity that makes it so, for us, game design is not code, it's a configuration. So the way we see it is we can develop mini games for our games, new prototypes, new market research based on endlessly reimagining new puzzle games within one singular app that we develop. And this unlocks a lot. And I know I'm just throwing jargon right now, but that's kind of the depth that we've gone through of really investing in the technology behind a game studio, and the kind of investment in technology that you might only see in a large corporation. And it makes sense because some of us come from large corporations. But we believe that's kind of the minimum, which kind of scares me for the future of startups in gaming, that you kind of need to go this far. But to make it more concrete, imagine you would launch a standard puzzle game, let's say a merge or a tile match or so forth, and you see that your user actually prefers in their ads a match 3 or a line match or a different genre of puzzle game. We actually have the technology to have a creative recorded in engine of that, and then they go to a store page based on that, and then they go inside the game and they play that game, that other game. So we're endlessly customizing our experience for our users, and I believe that that kind of innovation means that we can consistently reinvent our CPI, consistently reinvent our numbers to fit the trends of the users out there. If they now prefer this kind of game, we got it. If they prefer another kind of game next week, we got that too. And I think that is something that I'm hoping will be revolutionary for the games industry, or the mobile games industry.
I've also been thinking a lot about that since we've been chatting, and we see it in other verticals, and we know it works there. And the other thing that you're doing is you're sort of unlocking what's called the lead user, like the players who play and who can set the tone for the games because they know what they want to play. So in a way, you're also not just deconstructing the game to increase distribution and personalization, you're also going to get some great feedback, some great ideas, because if I've got what I want, I'll show you what I want next. Wouldn't that be something?
We started off with a lot of market research. We started off with a lot of user testing, and this is something we take a lot of pride in, that we constantly are viewing our players play, we are surveying our players, we're collecting all this feedback, trying to figure out what do they want constantly. And it's a cornerstone of something that we do, is we listen to our players first and foremost. And I think it's kind of this humility of, we're not going to make a product that we think is a good one. We're going to constantly adapt the product to what they want. And in the process, it might be interesting that we find that our audiences are different from we originally expected, but we're not super worried, because our ability of delivering in live ops, we will be able to adapt the game, not only in monetization, there's studios out there that already do this, but also in the core game design, the core gameplay itself. It will adapt over time to our users, and thanks to, the power of AI, the buzzword of the year, thanks to the power of AI, we actually generate so much more beyond that, so much more content, that nowadays games are very, users in games are very starved for content constantly. They want more, they want more, they want more. And we've been developing technology so it gets easier and easier to just deliver more and more and more varied and more adapted and more customized to what they really want. And that was our concern from the very start, yeah.
And of course, if you do more and more, and I'm thinking the whole time, another thing that went through my mind, and every time I talk with you, Gus, something goes through my mind. I was just thinking, it's not a product, you're creating a process, which is very cool, by the way. But to get back to the point of more and more and more, if I have more of what I want in a game and more opportunities, more personalization, more versions of that, then I'm going to see more engagement. What has your data been telling you? Because I know you've been testing this, because otherwise you wouldn't be so happy and humble about the results, right?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm a data guy. I think anyone worth their salt in the performance marketing world is a data guy first and foremost. Of course, there's creativity, but yes, we have seen retention I wouldn't say increase or uplift. The way I would say it is like this. When you advertise your game with a misleading ad, you get CPI uplift. In other words, it gets cheaper to advertise because you're adapting to trends. But then they come into the game and they have a huge expectation mismatch. They're like, hey, this was not the game that I signed up for. What am I doing here? And so our tests and the things that we've been working throughout the entire year, one of the core things that we've been figuring out is how do we advertise with a different kind of core gameplay experience in our ads that then they get to experience as mini games within our game, and what is the uplift? You were saying about retention. So usually you'd see a retention downlift, and we would seeing a retention downlift of at least 18% when people mislead with ads on the day one retention. And that's massive. That's suddenly almost a fifth of your users disappear the next day because they got lied to. Honestly, they got lied to. And that's the minimum. We actually believe that number can increase, especially depends on how misleading you are. We actually tested this with a more conservative, more nice way. So a fifth, let's say a fifth of your users leave. On our test, by introducing these mini games, we actually prevented this retention loss. So you get all of the benefits of suddenly being able to constantly adapt to market trends and adjust to what the markets are wanting, but simultaneously not having the retention loss. That's massive. Suddenly we're seeing that 30% or more of CPI decrease as a pure profit margin gain. That's huge for businesses, huge. So we actually expect the future of gaming to be all about segmentation, adaptability, customization, and adaptability to these different trends within the same app, mutating to what the audiences really want rather than a one game experience. Yeah.
And to your point, it's about engaging without annoying. So you've cracked the code on that. Not going to go from annoying to my next question, but but it is one of those years where we've both been out there a lot. I'd love to have like a key learning from you, from your travels and everything this year, and maybe the opposite, like something that really set your BS meter in this direction about what we're hearing in the industry so that we can keep our focus in 2025. There's a lot of noise out there, Gus, but you've been a lot of places. One thing we need to remember, one thing we can put on the definitely forget list.
On the bullshit, let's start with the bullshit meter. I feel like there's a lot of misconception about AI. Everyone is talking about it as if it's either a silver bullet or someone else is talking about it as a silver bullet. So people are thinking that, this is a revolution that's going to take all our jobs. It's going to create games, change the world, create games out of nowhere. No, come on. Would you say that about a calculator? Would you say that about Photoshop? Did they change the world? Did they improve the world? Sure, but not as... You didn't ask a calculator, hey, please make all the math for me. You used the calculator and made your math quicker, right? So that's the way I see AI. I see it as a tool that accelerates, that increases your productivity. And sure, does that mean that jobs are going to change? Yes, change. But I don't think this is a job loss. I actually think it's just a reorganization of the priorities of someone who's getting a job. So as human beings, we want to be creative, we want to be innovative, we want to be going deep on things. We don't want to do the repetitive tasks, we don't want to do some of the minutia when they are just bog standard data entry, something like this. This is what AI replaces. It replaces the parts of the job that you're not as keen on doing anyways from the start. And personally, on a personal note, I am not, despite me being a creative person and so forth, I am one of those people that has a terrible case of blank page syndrome. I just hate a blank page. And it's the worst part of it all. I might stay 2 days staring at the blank page and then 1 day doing the 3 days worth of work. And to me, AI is it kind of is a silver bullet for me in the sense that I might ask it to start it off and then I go, wrong, terrible. Let me do it all over from scratch. But funny enough, it's no longer a blank page, right? So in that case, it was kind of a silver bullet for me.
We have the both in one. We have the BS. Okay, key learning that you're taking with you, and it can also be on a personal level. You know, it just might be like the cocktail of your life, of your lifetime, or something. Since your hobby is mixing and making an amazing mixer evening as well, I might say. So something you're taking with you into 2025, personally, professionally.
It's funny you mentioned the night at my place. I think personally that was a very strong moment for my life, that as someone like us that is constantly out there trying to spread knowledge, raise awareness, try to get more people into the industry with in better footing, right? It's you would think that everyone. It's funny. The more you get experience, the more you automatically assume everyone knows what you know, and it's just not the case. So we actually do need to get out there and talk and teach and guide, because there's so many smart people coming every single day to the industry, but sometimes they don't know where to start, and it helps a lot. So for me, that moment of it being full circle, it coming all the way from I just moved to Finland and I have this amazing community helping me out, figure out my sea legs, where should I go, and then giving back with talks, giving back with conferences. And then funny enough, I wanted to give back to that state of my life, the conference and the talks and all the wonderful people that have enabled me to share a stage and so forth. I wanted to give back in a personal note. And to be fair, conferences are amazing. You make so many friends, you make so many contacts, but it's so easy to keep it surface level and to just like smile and pose and talk on LinkedIn. But there's a different moment of realization of, no, these are now actually your friends. You actually like these people. You actually want to invite them over. And to me, that was the personal moment of 2024 that really spoke to me, and finally being able to say, no, this is real, this is something that I actually feel about. And I'm sure it speaks volumes also out there that like, hey, you're coming into this industry, there's wonderful people here, but treat everyone with that respect and dignity you would a friend, right? So
created a whole new category of influencer, Gus. It's the great connector / cross-pollinator. That's how I'm going to think of you. And for enhancing the year, actually I'm counting it, I met you and you amazed me in February when you came on and said, I believe in a studio of one. I was like, I got to get to know this guy. And that was February. We're coming up on our first anniversary. May I say, it has been a delight. It's been a pleasure.
thank you.
Absolutely. And I remember, see, it's February and I know it. Sometimes I don't know my name, but I know that. Thanks so much.
Cheers.